In the late 1940s, the American post-war boom was getting into gear, and the North American railroads were moving into a new era of diesel-electric motive power. The electromotive division of General Motors had seen much success with their series of F-unit car-body locomotives, but the F-units had absolutely no rearward visibility at all, and were painful at best to switch with. At the same time, companies like Alco and Fairbanks Morse were producing road switchers, which were locomotives with walkways and good visibility all around. EMD attempted to offer their own road switcher in the form of the BL2 locomotive, which was basically a modified F7 with a different body shape to allow the engineer to see backwards at least a little. A grand total of only 58 were ever ordered, and the locomotives were considered to be a flop. EMD went back to the drawing board and, in 1949, came back with this, the GP7. Up until this point, EMD's road engines, like the F-units and BL2, were built with the structure integrated into the body, while switchers, like the SW1, had been built on top of a central frame. The GP7 took the switcher concept and expanded it into a road-capable locomotive. This made heavy repairs easier, as the hoods could be totally removed without compromising the structural integrity of the locomotive. The GP7 was powered by the same reliable 1,500 horsepower 16-cylinder 567B diesel motor that the railroads had come to love from the F7. GP stands for General Purpose, and the 7 was reportedly carried over from the F7, so it would be fair to say these new locomotives were general-purpose versions of the F7. From 1949 to 1954, EMD worked tirelessly to meet demand for the GP7. Orders came rolling in so fast that a second assembly plant was opened in Cleveland, Ohio. It is often said that Dick Dilworth, EMD's lead designer, had a vision for the GP7 as a locomotive, quote, so ugly it would be banished to the far country where it could do really useful work, unquote, as well as being so simple and bare bones that it would be a cut below the car-body freight engines EMD had offered up to that point. Like the F7s, the GP7s were quite adept at hauling heavy trains over the main line. You could combine as many as you needed to get the load over the road. Unlike the F7, however, the GP7 could switch cars around a yard or back them into a customer's siding with no fuss. Ugly or not in the eyes of contemporary railroaders, the GP7 quickly proved itself in sheer utility. The railroads had wanted something as solid and reliable as an F7 that could do more than mainline trains, and now they had them. More than 2,700 GP7s were ordered and built in 5 years. What was intended to be a second-class design was quickly acquiring a foothold on the main lines of North America. After a few years, a couple of weak points emerged in the GP7, such as sagging frames in some environments. EMD had refined its 567 diesel prime mover again, producing the 567C variant, rated at 1,750 horsepower. This, combined with a number of things learned from the GP7 out in the real world, led EMD to refine the design and offer the GP9 starting in 1954. With the GP7's reputation preceding it, the GP9 was every bit as popular with the railroads. The locomotives would be produced until 1959 in the United States and 1963 in Canada. Over 4,100 were built. For decades after, almost every railroad rostered one or both of the classes of locomotive. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, the Jeeps were almost a guaranteed sight if you spent any length of time trackside. Many of the original Jeeps saw service lives of about 20 years on the major railroads, but as they became available for second-hand service, short lines and regional railroads snapped many of them up. Others were acquired by museums and preservation groups. In the 1980s, GP9s were in the unusual position where you could find them everywhere from the main line to short lines to museum service on the same day. Over the years, many GP7s and 9s were rebuilt. Some were rebuilt into GP10 class locomotives. Others, like the Santa Fe GP7U or Canadian Pacific GP9U, were overhauled with cab, electronic, and mechanical improvements. These rebuilt units lasted into the 1990s and 2000s or later. A quarter of the way through the 21st century, the GP7s are almost entirely in museums, though some still earn their keep in rebuilt form for small operators. Canadian Pacific's GP9Us were retired between 2011 and 2015. Components from these are being used in the creation of new GP20C Eco locomotives, now going to CPKC. While many of these locomotives are now found in museums, there are some still earning their keep on short-line railroads, such as this GP10 rebuild, working on the Winchester and Western Railroad in Virginia. A 70-year working life is a remarkable achievement for any locomotive. In their prime, the Jeeps were so prevalent that train spotters often said, "Oh, those again," when one rolled by. Today, many railfans seek them out. These locomotives are legends of the North American Railroad story, for good reason. They did everything. Sorting a yard full of freight cars? A Jeep would do it. Local deliveries? Jeeps would do it. Long, heavy freight train to go over the main line? Jeeps would do it. Passenger service? So long as you had one with a steam generator to heat the coaches in the winter, a Jeep would do it and often did it. There were few jobs a GP7 or GP9 could not do. They may have been a second-class design on the drawing board, but they delivered, and continue to deliver, first-class performance.